How we doing, football fans? It's time for the final week of the NFL. Week number 18, picks and predictions. This guy's still used to having only 17 weeks in his damn football season, but we got one more week to go. One more week where maybe I could win a little bit of money. But before we get into the actual picks and predictions, of course, everybody's talking about it in the sports world right now. Damar Hamlin and his recovery. Buffalo Bills star, of course, from what we understand and what has been told to us from the media, he suffered a cardiac arrest in the Buffalo Bills-Cincinnati Bengals game. From today's news reports, however, he was in critical condition and intensive care for the past couple of days, but now he seems to be making leaps and bounds in a very speedy recovery. So, of course, shout out to him and his family, and his charity has been there's been huge influx of donations to, of course, his charity as well. So I just wanted to mention that, like everyone else should be and is doing, about Damar Hamlin. Hope he's okay, because at the end of the day, it's not worth a player's life. It's just a fucking football game. You know, so we know that the Buffalo Bills, and speaking of that, the Buffalo Bills-Cincinnati Bengals game is so far postponed, possibly indefinitely. They might just write that one down as a tie. They haven't really made any statement on what they're going to do with that as of yet, but once again, no more news here. Let's just jump into my picks and predictions. So, starting us off, we have Las Vegas Raiders up against Kansas City Chiefs. Well, that's pretty obvious. That's a pretty obvious pick. We're clearly going with the Raider Nation. Yeah, no, we're going with the Chiefs. 110% the Chiefs. And then following that game, this, I think, is going to be closer than a lot of people think. Tons of people picking the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so am I. So am I, not going to lie. I'm also picking them, but I think this is going to be a far closer game than people want to believe, because this is a division game. This means the difference between who's going to get in. I apparently that's what I was told today. If Tennessee wins, they're in, and Jacksonville is out. If Jacksonville wins, they're in, and Tennessee is out. So didn't even know Jacksonville was actually in the running for some reason. I have not been paying enough attention to the standings, clearly. But yeah, we are going with the Jaguars to win, but I think the Titans are going to fight tooth and nail in that game. Next game, we have Atlanta Falcons up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, of course, Tampa has already gotten in, so they don't need it. And unfortunately, this means a Tom Brady playoff pitcher. Can I just get away from this man, for God's sakes? For God's sakes, he didn't even do well this year. How is this man in the playoffs? I just don't understand. Anyways, we are going with the Buccaneers to beat the Falcons, regardless of it being a non-game for both teams, but is what it is. Then we have, of course, the aforementioned Buffalo Bills up against the New England Patriots, and I think Buffalo is going to... There's something to be said for their concern and their worry as a team and the morale over, of course, Hamlin. But I still think that Buffalo is going to band together. And the news that he's been on the fast track to recovery tells me that Buffalo isn't going to, let this chance go to waste. And they're just going to absolutely destroy Bill Belichick and the Patriots. So I believe that's another non-game, if I'm remembering correctly. But once again, for some reason, I didn't really check the standings and the situations going down in this final week. So used to checking it in week 17 and not week 18. So I believe it's a non-game. I don't think Patriots are in the hunt. They might be. Once again, not paying enough attention. I will be when it comes playoff time. Yeah, my team's in, so that's all I care about. Jumping to the next one, we have the Bears versus Minnesota, and I think the Vikings got this, even though they look abysmal and absolutely dreadful against the Green Bay Packers, allowing, I think now Green Bay's in there? Oh, for God's sake. Can we get away from these teams? No Aaron Rodgers, no Tom Brady. Can we get some new blood in the goddamn playoffs? I'm sick and tired of the same damn playoff pitchers, but I have the Vikings picked for that game. Then we have the Cincinnati Bengals at home up against the Baltimore Ravens, and that's just an easy pick. Bengals completely, because Baltimore can't seem to score more than 3 field goals and maybe a touchdown with a missed point, these days. So they're definitely not a high-scoring team whatsoever, and they let Pittsburgh win. Now, I know the backup quarterback and stuff, but once again, they're all NFL players. They're all in the league. So, yeah. jumping over to the next game, we have in Indy, we have Houston versus the Colts, and I got Houston. I got Houston picked. You know why? Because Houston is not as inconsistent as the Colts. Colts have went through a lot of changes this year, going as far as scoring up to like 30 points in some games and then barely scoring a field goal in the next game. Houston, at the very least, has always made teams work for it. They made the strongest teams in the league. They made Philadelphia work for it. They made the Eagles work for it. And even though the Eagles did win handily, Houston still put points on the board. Now, worst team in the league versus best team in the league, realistically, that should be a 40-0. And it was not. So I got a little more faith in Houston than I do in the inconsistency of the Colts. So I'm going to bet on Houston. And once again, trying to win a week and going against the grain a little bit is the only way to do it. Miami Dolphins in Miami up against the New York Jets. Jets sucks. We're going with the Dolphins. And then we're going to New Orleans to pick them up against Carolina because Carolina let me down. Had Carolina won, Tom Brady was not in. Or potentially not in. He would have been potentially not in. But because of the loss, the Carolina completely fumbled and fucked up that entire situation. And so I've got no love for the Panthers. I'm going with the Saints because I actually still have some respect for them. Then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers up against Cleveland Browns. And I made the mistake of picking against Cleveland last week. Not doing it here. Let's go Cleveland. Then we have Denver up against the Chargers. Easy pick. Denver's not that good. We're going with the Chargers. But knowing my luck, the Broncos are going to win that one because I can't seem to pick the Chargers games worth anything. So don't take my word for that one. That's anybody's. Then we have the Eagles up against the Giants. I think the Eagles want to keep their spot because I believe if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys win, the Cowboys become the number 1 seed and Philadelphia becomes the number 1 wild card. So I think Philadelphia is not going into this game. They're not going to go in to, at home up against the Giants and treat it like, well, we're already in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. No, they want their position. They want to be in there as a division leader, not as the top wild card. So Philly's definitely going to go in there to try. And though I would love for the Cowboys to get that number 1 pick, I would really like to win the division. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Philadelphia is definitely going to take it. Then we have San Francisco 49ers up against Arizona, and that's just... Is that even going to be televised? Because that's just going to be a slaughter for the 49ers destroying those Redbirds, the Cardinals. Then we have Seattle Seahawks up against the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm going with the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, I think they got this. It's in Seattle, and they've been a little shaken here and there in past weeks, but I think they're a little more consistent and a lot more hungry than the Rams have appeared to be all year. So that's where I'm going. Of course, there's no question in my mind that Dallas Cowboys, how about them Cowboys? They are going to destroy the Commanders in that game. And hopefully the Eagles do lose and I'm wrong and the Eagles lose that game. And then the Cowboys, I believe, if I have my standings correctly, the Cowboys would then become the division leader. And then we have the final game, Green Bay versus Detroit. And I believe this is the game where if Detroit defeats Green Bay is out. But if Green Bay wins, Green Bay is affirmed in. So, once again, don't take my word completely for this. I am very bad at checking the standings in this Week 18 stuff right now. So, I'm not been focused on the sports centers and stuff like that, thinking like, oh, no, not this week, next week, that kind of stuff. So, I'm all over the map with that. But anyways, those are my picks and predictions for the final week of the NFL season 2022-2023. There will be, of course, one more video. I'm not going to say anything, but there will be a second video if certain things happen in the playoffs. But there will be a playoff prediction bracket that I will make following, of course, this video. And that's probably the end of this series of videos. Not that they've done extremely well this year. It's something new I decided to start on the fly in late 2022 when the season first began. And I thought maybe jumping into the sports venue might garner a different sort of audience, gather a few more subscribers and views for that particular type of content. Didn't seem to do all that well, of course, this year. I tried to promote it as best I could. but once again, self-promotion is frowned upon on most areas of the internet. So hopefully, I think I'll continue this into next year, into next season. It is the sport that I follow the most, and I don't think I'll branch out right now talking about other sports. But anyways, maybe next year will be a better year for this type of content. Who knows? Where it is a gaming and manga channel sort of idea, I understand why it didn't exactly do so hot in the algorithm. So it is what it is. But anyways, hope you guys who did watch enjoyed the picks and predictions. And once again, let me know your guys' picks down in the comment section down below. Hope you like, comment, and subscribe as always. And we'll see you back here for the final playoff picture video. And potentially one more video after that, depending on what happens in the playoffs. So we might see you back here in February. We might not. Depends on what happens. But thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.